Hi, it's Mr. Koh here again today to talk about minority rights, in Singapore. Okay, there are a lot of PAP, Malay ministers, who have been assigned to minority councils, committees, organizations to protect Malay rights. Yet, when it comes to Malay rights, they usually stay silent on the issues or either just give some light suggestions, That's it, they do not give out harsh criticisms on your behalf. You guys, Malay friends, my Malay friends, my Malay neighbors, let me tell you this, these types of all Malay ministers, all these PAP Malay ministers, the pay and pay party ministers, this kind of pay and pay party, Malay ministers should have been assigned to protect your rights, are always just giving light suggestions without harsh criticism. That tells you a lot about, them. Their party loyalty is more important than your minority right, maintaining the halal standard, I have seen a few times where a Malay stall, can just slap on the halal sign without registering with any sort of Malay organization, any Malay minority rights organization in Singapore. They can just slap on to halal sign, then tells you it's a halal food, okay? And maybe inside they put maybe a few, a little bit, maybe 1 teaspoon of alcohol and you don't even know it. I can tell you that's how our system, of protecting Malay rights failed the Malay community so far, okay? I tell you guys, you know, that we are not, Singapore, we are not trading enough Malay preachers, to preach the Quran, Our Malay preachers are decreasing day by day in numbers since our aging population is also increasing. So too the Malay preachers, just slowly, in a lack of a morbid word, die off, like gone, since we are suffering from an aging population, yet this pay and pay party, Malay representatives, are not fighting for any Malay rights. They are, just, thinking, their party loyalty is more important than your minority rights, like the Malay community one, facing, a lot, facing a lot of discrimination, you know, know, in the work, in the workplace by not being allowed to wear the hijab, or either, being told that the food is halal, yet at the end of the day you found out that the food is not even halal since the store owner or the food provider just slaps a Malay, a Malay halal sign on it without registering it with the organizations for some reason. That's how pathetic the current situation now is here, okay? I can't even explain to you so many problems with this. Oh, you guys, your Malay rights, your minority rights are all politicized, by the PMP party used for their political purposes, like the hiatus trigger, just so that they can use it as a political weapon, to put in someone that they like, like Halima Yaacob, the walkover infamous walkover president, That's how, strange, your rights are. It's being so muddled with, uh, with radicalized, propagandas in other countries, which the PMP party is not doing, it's not doing to protect you guys, to view these stuffs, they are not even like, trying to censor all this stuff. They're just letting all these things come in, You have seen few cases where kids have been radicalized by ISIS, by terrorist attacks, in other countries against minorities. Yet when the PNP party address it, they address it in a so light tone. Even if they address it in a tone that they mean it, yet they will not act on it or anything. They don't even bother, to send, MINDEF to deal with them or something, No, they just give a huge speech and say we will just come up with a bunch of paper policies, paper tiger policies, that is good on paper yet it does not work, okay? It does not work. I tell you, if it works, I won't be, talking about this topic, I will just pack home, go home, and eat my Thai fan, my rice, okay, at home. I just keep quiet about it, but I can't. I saw too much of their problems, okay? I saw so much problem that I know myself, that you guys, all your Malay rights, all minority rights are important. Your Malay rights, your minority rights, your Malay rights are important. Yet the PMP party thinks that party loyalty is more important than your minority rights for some reason. I can't really tell who is the important one, whether is it Malay rights or the PMP party keeping their party loyalty in check and going soft on issues like this. Okay, the rise in radicalization, is due to the fact that the ministers, the men in white ministers, refuse, to increase our defense against cyber attacks, against scams. Oh, once people are scammed, you know, they will start asking, whether, I should vent out my anger in another way, which is how kids, maybe those kids, have a story also at the back of them. Maybe they got scammed, by some deranged, some deranged foreign scammer. Then later they think like, how should I vent out my anger? Then they will go online. They go online and watch all those videos of people, being beheaded, in the Middle East. That's how the thing. Okay, this is the right way to vent out my anger. Since in Singapore there are no outlets to vent out your issues. Even if there are, they are so no useless bunch of outlets. It's like the pay and pay party asks you to pay and pay more for more better outlets. Yes, yet they still provide the same poor servicing outlets that do not service you very well. That's how they are, okay. Poor outlets that could not even receive anger notifications, that someone is angry or you should, help this person. No, these outlets are so useless. They are like broken, outlets that are given to you by the pay and pay party who makes you pay and pay more. Yet you are still receiving those spoiled damage useless outlets, okay? And after that, these guys will just go and watch on, then they'll think, okay, that's the right way to vent out my anger. Okay, let's go. And then, maybe I will should, maybe I should, conduct something, on some mosque, or something like that. That's how those kids get, radicalized. Those kids are also quite a pity, they have a backstory of their own. But the pay and pay party don't want you to know this. What they want you to know is that, I'm protecting you guys, your minority rights, your Malay rights, by keeping all these kids away, locking them up. The end, full stop, question mark, don't need to ask about all these kids, whether all these kids are radicalized out of anger or out of pure desperation for help. These kids are shouting for help. You know, Malay Malay brothers and sisters, Muslim brothers and sisters, please, pity these kids. I know it's very hard to relate to them since they are maybe not your family members or what. Imagine if they are your family members who have been radicalized by videos in the Middle East. What will you do? Okay? Thank you for watching once again. Hope to see you again. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, watch this video. Thank you. Hope to see you again. Thank you.